face. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gon' be safe. Everybody gon' be safe. One kind, yeah. One people. We are roll up to roll out, yeah. Cause no man's alone, do what's right, alright. Cause I love you, brother, my sister. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah, yeah. It's better for us. Tell your mommy to roll up to roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
I have to step out every day into the unknown. It's a challenge to think about growth when everyone's just surviving.
However, building resilience is allowing the self-employed to ride the changing tides.
I am back to business by creating digital channels for my customers to view my products.
I'm back to business by creating a seamless e-commerce experience for my clients.
So I'm back to business by adhering to the COVID-19 protocols to ensure business continuity and the safety of my clients and myself.
Social security, working together to build a sustainable self-employed sector.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear our face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated, or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
A pleasant good evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters, a program which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. It's brought to you regularly, and Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris updates you on matters of national importance and decisions taken by the Team Unity Administration. We've not had a show for a few weeks, so I know many of you are eagerly anticipating the conversation tonight. He is joined by key officials within the civil service and the Ministry of Health in particular. So, to let you know, his special guests this evening are Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Vincent Williams Hodge, and Superintendent of Police Cromwell Henry from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. We're going to have opening remarks by his special guests, but to set the tone for the show, we're going to hear from the Prime Minister himself, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. My fellow citizens, residents, and well-wishers, I am grateful for this opportunity to be communicating with you again tonight across multiple media and platforms. It is an honor to execute my duty as National Leader and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and in particular to take time to listen to you directly and respond to your questions and concerns. This is yet another feature of our good governance agenda. It is evidence of our people-centered approach to governance and my administration's commitment to accountability. Indeed, this is yet another medium through which citizens and residents get the opportunity to engage the office of the Prime Minister, and I count it a privilege to facilitate this event. Tonight, I believe it is important for us to continue our ongoing discussions on the way forward, living and ultimately thriving in this challenging COVID-19 era. We are well aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has had extreme negative impacts on lives and livelihoods across the world. As a responsible government, we have sought to mitigate these negative impacts in St. Kitts and Nevis. While my government has always insisted on a life-first approach and has been guided throughout this pandemic by the advice of our health professionals and our national task force, we have recognized and shown our commitment to ensuring that our citizens and residents not only have life, but that they have the best quality of life possible. For this reason, we have launched a number of initiatives in the recent months to provide relief and to keep our people safe. The Team Unity Administration has been allocating available resources and employing varied measures to reduce economic hardships experienced by citizens and residents during this period of challenge. I recently announced an historic second stimulus package containing several comprehensive, far-reaching and targeted initiatives to stimulate economic activity and provide a better quality of life for our people. In addition, we continue to provide significant support to the most vulnerable in our society through our comprehensive social assistance programs. Our Poverty Alleviation Program, PAP, has brought and continues to bring much needed relief to many of our citizens and residents. Nevertheless, we have added other initiatives to supplement the PAP. Over the period January to July, we have assisted over 5,000 families under the PAP for a total expenditure of $18.7 million. My government has been there, helping the poor and the vulnerable through these challenging times. I will now provide some updates on the rollout of some elements of our stimulus package, which we believe provide much needed relief to our citizens and residents. Turning to the popular Income Support Program, a total of 3,663 applications have been received by the Ministry of Finance as of the 16th August 2021. A total of 1,528 applications have already been approved, of which instructions were sent to the Treasury to pay 1,005 applicants. Arrangements are being made to have another 250 payments processed shortly. With respect to our fuel subsidy program, a total of 101 applications have been received by the Ministry as of the 16th August 2021. A total of 83 applications have been approved and 74 payments have been made to date. With respect to the disability support, a total of 118 applications have been approved, of which 112 have been paid to date. Arrangements are being made to have payments processed for the remaining 6 applicants. My government will ensure that to the extent we can, no one, I repeat, no one, is being left behind. With respect to support for the food truck vendors, a total of 4 applications have been received and approved by the Ministry of Finance. The payment details were submitted to the Treasury for processing. Meantime, my government has committed well over $100,000 to create a safe and secure area for the truck vendors to ply their trade at North Independence Square Street. We will ensure that everyone doing business there complies with the COVID-19 protocols. Turning to the matter of public safety, Thursday last week was a very good day for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in our ongoing fight against COVID-19. We move yet another step closer to the recovery of our economy and near normalcy in our society. We received the first tranche of 11,700 doses of the well-known Pfizer vaccine, a timely contribution from President Joseph Biden and his administration. This contribution was delivered as a direct result of our high-level diplomacy pursued by CARICOM heads of government, in particular Prime Minister Keith Rowley of Trinidad, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit of Dominica, and yours truly, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. As Prime Minister, I am very happy that we now have the Pfizer vaccine. It brings more choices to our people, something we had long hoped for. Our procuring these doses of this Pfizer vaccine is a major success given the very limited availability and accessibility of vaccines in the developing world. The Pfizer vaccine has also been used to vaccinate persons 12 years and over. This is a tremendous benefit since our children can now have their own protection rather than relying on vaccinated adults for their protection. Our schools can safely reopen in September with reduced risk to our children who can now get vaccinated if they are 12 years old and 12 years and older. We want all our children to be safe, to be protected, and to be properly educated. My administration is committed to delivering a stronger, safer future. And to do so, we must protect our young people, even as we continue to secure the well-being of every other demographic. It is still true that vaccination is a critical tool in the fight against COVID-19 and its extensive, devastating ripple effects. It is critical to our opening up of our economy safely, and in particular, our people being able to get back to work with reduced risk. Across the world, The best scientific evidence indicates that vaccination offers a critical layer of protection to individuals, and this provides the best possible outcomes to communities and countries. Turning to the hurricane season, while we discuss the issue of safety of our citizens and residents, I must remind our people that the Atlantic hurricane season runs from the 1st June to the 30th of November. This is a period when we face threats from tropical waves, tropical storms, and hurricanes. We are now in the 3rd month of the season, and perhaps fast approaching the peak of the season. Let us take the necessary steps to prepare ourselves as best we can for any eventuality associated with the threats of these weather systems. The final matter I wish to address is the award of Medal of Honors. I want to express words of commendation and honor to some very special people in our nation who earlier today received the very prestigious awards at Government House. Earlier today, the work, dedication, and efforts of these individuals were publicly acknowledged and appreciated. To these honorees I say, thank you for what you have done and continue to do to make our communities stronger and our federation better. 7 of the 8 outstanding nationals were invested with the 2020 Medal of Honor by His Excellency the Governor General. Dr. Linton Liebert will receive his medal at a separate ceremony to be held in Nevis. The Medal of Honor is one of the 2 highest civilian honors that the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis bestows on its sons and daughters. We present these medals to honor those who go above and beyond their call of duty. This medal is an acknowledgement that the recipient truly has put country before self. Today's recipients have more than demonstrated this virtue, and they deserve of this honor and of our gratitude. Please let us all recognize our 8 deserving recipients. Mrs. Perline Teresa Musenden, her field was education. Mr. Joseph Emmanuel Benders, her arts, in particular steel band music. Dr. Linton Liebert, medicine. Mrs. Patricia Mary Nurse Clark, community service, in particular care for the elderly and those with disabilities. Mrs. Pamela Elaine Brooks, for nursing duties. Mr. Charles Delvin McMaster was honored for his work in community service. Mr. Brian Dyer for national service in crisis, and Dr. Judy Nisbet for national service in crisis. Today we acknowledge our service, but also we acknowledge their humility. Here with me tonight are dedicated professionals who will further our discussions and assist me in providing reliable information to our people. I want to thank the panelists for their sacrifice and hard work, and I want to thank them for dedicating their time to serving our beloved citizens and residents. The panelists here tonight are no strangers to our nation. They are not strangers to the viewers and listeners of Leadership Matters. Indeed, each of them has demonstrated commendable leadership attributes over the past 18 months. Allow me to introduce the panelists. Our Medical Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Vincent Hodge, and Superintendent of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry. I hope that you will enjoy tonight's Leadership Matters and find it to be very informative. May God continue to bless and prosper our people and country, and may He continue to keep us all safe. I thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister, for getting the ball rolling. So now we're going to hear from the Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson?
Good night. Any path to recovery and a stronger and safer future requires us to keep contained this highly infectious and deadly COVID virus. Containing the virus will require us to protect as many persons as possible with the best tool available to us. That tool is the vaccine, and with more than 4.72 billion doses already administered globally, leading to a significant decrease in hospitalizations and death from COVID-19, we know that it works. We have done almost everything within our power to get our people to come forward voluntarily to be vaccinated. Some have chosen not to do so, and they do have a right to make that choice. There comes a point in time when overwhelming scientific evidence and common sense have to prevail. Just because you have a right to choose does not mean that you do not have a responsibility in this fight. Every one of us who can be vaccinated has a moral responsibility and a duty to this country and its citizens and residents to do so, as by protecting ourselves, we provide protection for others, especially those who cannot protect themselves. Though battle-weary in this fight, we continue to educate and encourage the undecided and unvaccinated to come forward voluntarily so that we can get a high threshold of population immunity where we can safely and fully reopen our country and get the economy back on track. The situation update. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. Globally, there have been over 207 million confirmed cases with 4.36 million deaths. In the Caribbean region, we have had just over 1.38 million cases and 17,000 deaths. Here in the Federation, we had 708 cases to date with 590 recoveries and 115 active cases with 3 deaths. Currently, there are 6 hospitalized. We are in community spread like almost every other place on the face of the globe and continue to fight to keep it contained. We continue to report daily positive cases and are beginning to see the numbers climb again as complacency sets in. We had 13 new positive cases on Saturday, 24 on Monday, and now 27 today, after recording daily low single-digit positives and sometimes 0 since the lockdown. The majority of the recent cases were picked up through contact tracing from recent social gatherings and the early childhood school sector. This shows that every time our people let their guard down, the virus surges. The analysis of the data in the current wave from May 19th to August 3rd shows that of 558 positive cases during that period, 81.5% of the cases were in persons under the age of 50, with 23.8% in the 0 to 19 age range and 42.9% in the 20 to 39 age group. 248 cases, or 44.4%, were unvaccinated adults. 113, or 20.3%, were children who could not be vaccinated, and 101, or 18%, were persons who were partially vaccinated. Only 70, or 12.8%, were fully vaccinated. We see, therefore, unlike early in the pandemic, that we are having younger persons becoming infected, and the vast majority are not fully vaccinated. Also, our children who are dependent on us for protection are now being adversely affected. This situation can be arrested by more persons coming forward for the vaccine. If you are on the fence and hesitant about getting vaccinated, this should be the tipping point for you now. the vaccination program. The CDC director recently said that we now have a pandemic of the unvaccinated, referring to the rising cases in the USA among the unvaccinated. The virus is searching for the next person to infect, and more often than not, it will be the unvaccinated. We see that happening here, as more than 87.2% of our new infections were not fully vaccinated. We now have 72.9% of adults covered with one shot and 61.6% fully vaccinated, and this is highly commendable. Our high vaccination coverage is the envy of many countries. I was in a regional meeting with our Prime Minister last week where every leader was amazed at our high vaccination rate and wondered what was the secret to our successful vaccination program. My response to such questions is encapsulated in one word: confidence. Our people had confidence in the message that was being delivered through our education program about the vaccine and its safety and efficacy. Our people had confidence in the health services offering the vaccine, which is why they turned up in large numbers at our health centers throughout St. Kitts and Nevis to be vaccinated. Our people had confidence in the policymakers deciding on the rollout, starting with our Prime Minister Harris, the Minister of Health, the Chief Medical Officer, and the entire administrative staff of the Ministry of Health. We, however, cannot let complacency set in and must continue our drive to get everyone who should be vaccinated out to receive the vaccine. We must understand that we all have an individual and collective responsibility. One to protect ourselves as individuals, and another to protect others from infection through our vaccination. The vast majority of the remaining 8,961 unvaccinated adults may not have a political agenda or may not be committed to an anti-scientific cause, as some may think. In my day-to-day one-on-one conversations with persons who are unvaccinated, I find the majority as simply undecided about their choice to take the injection, and many as simply being misled by misinformation. The good news is that once presented with the facts, they are changing their minds, which is why we continue to have a slow but steady increase in our vaccination numbers. Being unvaccinated is neither a race nor a gender that cannot be changed. This is not the time to divide ourselves into vaccinated and unvaccinated groups, or the virus will prey on our divisions. On May the 17th this year, we only had 11.4% of the adults fully vaccinated. In 3 months later, on August the 17th, we have 61.6% fully vaccinated. And that is a 50% swing from unvaccinated to fully vaccinated in just 3 months. This is clear evidence that being unvaccinated is not a permanent and unchangeable status. We will continue to have open dialogue with the now 8,961 unvaccinated adults among us and continue to shrink this number as we bring them into the fold of protection through vaccination. I strongly encourage those in leadership positions who know better to assist in sending a clear message that the vaccines are safe and effective, and use their platform to promote vaccination. The Delta variant. With the high transmissibility of the new Delta variant, there is an increased urgency to reach as many people as quickly as possible with the vaccine. The Delta variant is the most contagious variant we have seen so far. The World Health Organization has called it the fastest and the fittest of all variants. Without vaccination and a mask, an infected person with the original virus will infect 2.5 other persons. Under the same conditions, a person infected with the Delta variant will infect 9 other persons. Some data suggests that the Delta variant might cause more severe illness than previous strains in unvaccinated persons. I said a couple of weeks ago that it was only a matter of time before the Delta variant arrived at our shores. It was not a matter of if, but when it was going to arrive, and that we all needed to prepare for this eventuality. Samples were sent off to CAFA for genomic sequencing on July 28th. The results returned over the last 24 to 48 hours confirmed the presence of the Delta variant in one of the samples tested. This was an inbound passenger who was in quarantine and has since recovered. It is comforting to know that the Delta variant was found in someone who was in quarantine and has since recovered and was not found at large in the community. We will be sending off further samples for genomic sequencing. A number of our neighbors on this side of the globe already have the Delta variant, including Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, Martinique and Guadeloupe, Barbados, Puerto Rico, Anguilla, Saba, the United States Virgin Islands, and St. Martin. We will not be spared, and we must be prepared for the eventuality. If too many people remain vulnerable and become infected with this variant, our healthcare system will become overwhelmed and more people will die. The unvaccinated among us are at greatest risk. Unfortunately, most of our children who cannot be vaccinated can be more impacted by the Delta variant than other variants or the original virus. Our elderly are also more likely to become symptomatic, be hospitalized, and die if infected with the Delta variant. This means that they are even more dependent now on us who can be vaccinated for protection. Yes, it is true that if you are vaccinated, you can still get infected by the Delta variant, but being vaccinated offers you significant protection against symptomatic disease, hospitalization, and death. The vaccine is our best defense against this highly contagious and deadly variant. The higher the proportion of the population fully vaccinated, the better our defense will be against the Delta variant. Our health system. Our health system remains robust, and we must continue to strengthen it, as its resilience is at the core of every decision we make as we move forward on a path to recovery and living with COVID-19. We recently said goodbye to the Cuban medical contingent that came in to assist in the fight against COVID-19, and I want to publicly thank them for their contribution. I want to remind you that the help came at a cost. The cost to the Federation for salaries, accommodation, and air travel was $4,224,583.03. Our able local staff will continue the fight we started from the first day the deadly virus hit our shores early last year. They recently benefited from 2 training courses organized by PAHO on Pfizer vaccines in preparation for the vaccine's arrival. We received a donation, as you heard, from the U.S. government of 11,700 doses of Pfizer vaccines last week and expect a further 23,400 doses. We now have 3 ultra-cold storage -20-degree refrigerators and 1 -80-degree refrigerator. This shows advanced planning and preparation for the arrival of the Pfizer vaccines that require ultra-cold storage devices. The vaccination team is continuing the training and preparation to begin the vaccine rollout of our teenagers sometime in September. We have managed a total of 103 patients at the COVID ward at the Joseph and France Hospital since the start of the pandemic, 34 last year and 69 this year. The vast majority were unvaccinated. We have had 3 deaths. There are currently 6 patients hospitalized. The average cost per day to treat a patient on the COVID ward is $5,522. We have a total of 35 ventilators on standby to manage persons with severe respiratory disease, but we can avoid having to put them into use by us protecting ourselves from severe disease by getting vaccinated. We recently received 20 oxygen concentrators as a gift from the Republic of China, Taiwan. These could supply supplemental oxygen generated at the bedside from room air for persons with mild to moderate respiratory disease from COVID. While we continue to spend large sums of money to equip the institution with the expertise, drugs, and equipment to fight COVID-19, we can lessen the burden on the healthcare system by simply getting the vaccine that is given free to all adults and soon to our 12 to 18-year-olds. Finally, the path to recovery. There are many complexities and challenges that this pandemic has presented, but over the last 18 months, we have safely navigated the course and are now on the path to recovery. The path to recovery and getting back to a stronger and safer future requires that citizens and residents now take personal responsibility to protect themselves by wearing a mask, hand sanitizing and social distancing, and for every adult who can be vaccinated to be vaccinated. We now have vaccines for the 12 to 18-year-olds, and I urge parents and guardians to bring these teenagers out to be vaccinated. Vaccinating quickly and thoroughly those who can be vaccinated to prevent the Delta variant and other variants from gaining a foothold in our communities is key to a stronger and safer future. If we have a significant proportion of the population protected through immunization, we can safely open the tourism industry, which is the backbone of our economy. We can safely bring every sector of society and our economy back to near normalcy if the majority of us are protected through vaccination and indirectly offer protection to those who cannot protect themselves. The vaccine is, however, not a bulletproof, and if we begin to interact like the pre-pandemic era, we will be back to square one. Non-pharmaceutical interventions will continue to play a crucial part in keeping the cases down. I urge everyone to get on board and help us to control the viral transmission as we embark on our path to recovery. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilkinson. We're now going to hear from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Hodge. Mr. Hodge?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Ms. Bryan, and commendations on the excellent job that you have been doing in moderating this program. Allow me to recognize our illustrious Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, as well as our Medical Chief of Staff and Superintendent of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry. I greet all of you, viewers and listeners at home and abroad. There are several teachers who send me inspirational messages, quotations on a daily basis, religiously. I do take time to read these messages because I'm able to draw strength from them. One of the messages I received this week says, happiness is the rich, the new rich. Happiness is the new rich. Inner peace is the new success. Health is the new wealth. Health is the new wealth. Kindness is the new cool. Yes, health is the new wealth. The health of all Kititians and Evisions is the wealth of our nation. At this present moment, the health of our country is under severe threat. A threat brought on by the clutches of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Let me hasten to say that the virus is no respect of persons of all creeds, color, class, ages, professions are contracting the virus. Yes, I did say persons of all ages are contracting the virus. Our children and young people are affected. Of the 588 cases in the outbreak from May 19th to August 3rd, 113 of these 558 cases were children. 11.2% of the total cases were children ages 0 to 9, and 12.6% of the total cases were between the ages of 10 to 19. 31 of this number were secondary and tertiary level students who could not write their SKELEC or CAPE examinations in July-August. And this was because they or someone in their household contracted the virus and had to be in isolation or in quarantine. This has been a tremendous setback in some ways for our students who now have to wait until January or June of 2020 to write the examinations. As we are all aware, a number of students at the primary and secondary levels have been stricken by the virus, and this resulted in our schools coming to a screeching halt. Schools were forced to close prematurely to contain the spread of the virus. We all know too well that school closures do have crippling effects, not only on students' learning, but equally on school closures have crippling effects on our economy. If our daycare centers, nurseries, schools are to remain closed, this has serious implications on the successful and safe reopening of the economy. This is not a textbook information. We have all lived this over the past 18 months. Fellow Kititians and divisions, as we face this pandemic, parallels can be drawn with biblical teachings. For example, we take the lesson of the Red Sea that prevented the Israelites from crossing. What we learn from this story is that God did not remove the Red Sea. He parted it. Sometimes God does not remove our problems. He makes a way through them. One of the ways that God has given us to fight this pandemic is through the vaccine. In our beloved federation, we have gone above the measure to encourage our adults, parents, guardians, teachers, men and women who work with our children and young people to get vaccinated. That encouragement continues this evening. At this juncture, I'm happy and I commend the government for securing the Pfizer vaccine that can be administered to children and youth 12 to 18 years old. Shortly, the Ministry of Health will partner with the Ministry of Education to roll out the administration of the Pfizer vaccine. We make a special appeal to teachers, parents, to support this process. Children younger than 12 years at this point cannot be vaccinated. They will continue to depend on their parents, guardians, and teachers for protection. As we speak, the Ministry of Health has ordered the emergency closing of 4 early childhood facilities, 2 public and 2 private facilities. When the Ministry of Health gives the order to close a center or a school, it is no secret. It is public information. But some people trying to use social media to spread propaganda. The Industrial Site Preschool, or daycare, is one of the largest government-operated centers in the Federation. And let me take this opportunity to share with you some pictures of how this center looks tonight, the 17th of August, 2021. Because some persons have gone out of their way to circulate a picture that represents what the industrial center looked like prior to the Team Unity government coming to office. By the middle of the first term, the Team Unity administration undertook the renovation of this building from top to bottom. A spanking new roof of over $300,000 was put in place. And that is the picture that you're seeing on the screen. As we approach the opening of the academic year 2021 to 2022, the official start date for school, for teachers in particular, is Monday, 30th August, where teachers will report to their schools for their summer training. The opening ceremony will take place, and it's a virtual event where teachers would log on from their respective schools. The rest of that week will be spent in virtual training for teachers, training that is based on the enhanced curriculum that we are now rolling out in our schools. On Monday and Tuesday of that week, September 6th and 7th, teachers will be at schools, getting their classrooms ready and participating in school-based meetings with their principals. On Wednesday, 8th September, is the first day for students to report. Wednesday, 8th September, is the first day for students to report, barring no further difficulty in the country. Once we have the clearance from the Ministry of Health, those are the dates that we are working with for the official start of school. At this point, I would rest here and look forward to your questions, your concerns that will be raised. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge, for your presentation and your kind words. We're now going to hear from Superintendent of Police Cromwell Henry, who is coming from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. Superintendent Henry.
Thank you, Jackie, and a pleasant good night to all listening to this broadcast. As we enter into the final week of the current iteration of the Emergency Powers Regulations, which expires on August 23rd, it is important, but it's not too late, to remind you and to educate you on one of the change in these regulations. In doing so, I will speak specifically to the issue of quarantine. Now, we know that quarantine is a public health measure used to separate and restrict the movement of persons who may have been exposed to a communicable disease such as COVID-19 or travel from a country that is considered a hotspot for the virus to see if they will eventually become ill. The current emergency powers regulations require that all incoming passengers undergo a period of quarantine before they integrate into the community. Regulation 14.5 provides all arriving travelers who are fully vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus shall A, remain in a government-approved COVID-19 hotel or quarantine facility for a period of 4 days, or B, they may quarantine at a private residence certified by the National COVID-19 Task Force for a period of 4 days. With this option, no private security is necessary. Section 6 provides that all persons who are not fully vaccinated shall remain in quarantine for at least 14 days in a government-approved quarantine facility. Children under the age of 18 who are traveling with their fully vaccinated parents will be subject to the same quarantine time as their parents. Persons in quarantine shall only be released from quarantine upon receiving a negative RT-PCR test. Incoming travelers who wish to quarantine at home must first apply online at www.covid19.gov.kn and complete the pre-approved home quarantine application form and submit same. Representatives of the task force will visit and inspect the property, and then they will notify you whether or not your application was successful. Persons whose applications are approved will be sent formal notification along with the guidelines and conditions of their quarantine. It is important to note that any violation of the quarantine conditions will lead to criminal prosecution under the Quarantine Act, which provides for fines up to $5,500 or 6 months in prison if convicted. There are similar expectations for persons who have not traveled but are placed in quarantine because of their exposure to the virus through contact with someone who is positive. The same penalties will apply should you not honor the conditions of your quarantine. So in a nutshell, I'm simply saying quarantine is a very serious thing, and that persons who are placed in quarantine are expected to comply with all the conditions of their quarantine, which mainly is just to remain at home and to avoid contact with persons who are also not in quarantine, and to only integrate with the community after you would have been tested and your result returned negative. And this would be after day 4 or on day 4 of your quarantine. I will stop here for now and will await the discussion where I might reveal more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Henry. At the start of the program, I did say that you might have been eager to hear from the Prime Minister and his guests, but we are also eager to hear from you as the program has not been hosted for a few weeks. So, this is the point where you get to participate. Now that we've had those critical updates, you can ask any question or concern that you have, and this is how you can pose those questions and concerns to the Prime Minister and his guests. There are several numbers that you can use to call in. Those numbers are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and there's an international line. If you're in the diaspora, you can use 1-239-645-4500. Those numbers are listed at the bottom of the screen for your convenience. You can also send WhatsApp messages and voice notes to two numbers. They are 661-5683. That's 661-5683. You can also use 660-7168. That's 660-7168, and we will try our best to take as many calls and messages as possible. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to go straight to the phone lines. So stay tuned.
It's only just a phase. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gon' be safe. Everybody gon' be safe. One kind, yeah. One people. We are roll up to roll up, yeah. Cause no man's alone. Do what's right, alright. Cause I love you, brother, my sister. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah, yeah. It's better for us. Tell your mommy to roll up to roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
Responsible. SKELEC is here for you. SKELEC, the #1 utility provider, innovative and powering a brighter future.
SKELEC has made significant strides over the past 10 years, noteworthy of celebration today. As a utility provider, we pride ourselves on being able to provide electricity with reliability and responsibility. For the past 10 years, SKELEC has focused on people. In doing so, the community remains at the center of our operations. We are always thinking of new ways to make doing business with us easier. We think of how best we can help our customers and stakeholders. SKELEC would not have been able to celebrate a successful 10 years as a company without dedicated staff. And to the staff, I say a hearty thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. On the occasion of this 10th anniversary, we would like to thank our current Minister, Honorable Sean K. Richards, as well as all past ministers who have served over the past 10 years. The current Board of Directors Chair, Mr. Melville Don Moncampo, all other past chairs and board members, and all other stakeholders who have been involved with SKELEC over the period. Happy 10th anniversary, SKELEC.
On this day, August 1st, 2021, I would like to say happy anniversary to the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited and wish them every success in their future endeavors.
SKELEC turns 10, we're keeping you connected until the very end.
What a celebration! SKELEC turns 10.
Congratulations to SKELEC, celebrating 10 years of providing a reliable and responsible service to consumers.
SKELEC, your power company, turns 10. Happy birthday, SKELEC!
Happy 10th anniversary to SKELEC, and happy to be a part of this milestone.
SKELEC is celebrating its 10th anniversary, and we will continue to provide the best quality service to the island of St. Kitts.
Feliz 10º aniversario, SKELEC. vaya y han pasado 10 años. Juntos hemos llegado tan lejos y hemos logrado mucho. Big up yourself.
Happy 10th anniversary, SKELEC. I'm so proud to be a part of the team.
We are now celebrating our 10th anniversary and welcome you to come and celebrate it with us.
Happy 10th anniversary to an amazing company, SKELEC.
We just want to say 10 years anniversary going out to SKELEC, and not only SKELEC, the hard-working SKELEC staff.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, a program which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. He's usually joined by key officials in the ministry in the civil service rather, and also the private sector. But this evening, he's joined by Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Hodge, and Superintendent of Police from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. So we've had critical updates generally and specifically in the Ministry of Health, Education, and from a security standpoint. And at this stage, we're going to open the phone lines to hear from you. So without further ado, let's go to the phone lines and take our first call for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Hello, good evening.
Welcome back. We missed you. As the opening batsman tonight, I'll make a comment just before I ask my question. Listening to the BBC today, I learned from New Zealand, that they had a lockdown they're having now for the next few weeks, a lockdown from midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning, all because they've had one case of COVID over the past 6 months, which I think is fantastic. I wonder what we would do if we had a case like that. The question is, some weeks ago, I heard a news item which stated that the U.S. government was giving the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis 2 emergency field hospitals, 40 beds, air conditioning, generators, and that sort of thing. Where are we with the Delta virus looming ahead of us? Where are we with that gift from the United States? And where do we plan to locate these things? And any plans already in place for providing infrastructure to feed these hospitals as soon as we get them? I'll listen off here, of course, for the answer. Thank you.
For your contribution. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening to your panel. I would like to ask Mr. Hart this question. Are the teachers fully vaccinated in St. Kitts and Nevis? And if the parents don't want the children to vaccinate, what are they going to do about it?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night.
Hi, good evening.
Bucket Media, welcome back to Leadership Matters. And let me start off by saying that I must commend the government for doing a fantastic job in taking the initiative in having such a wonderful payout of the stimulus, especially during this time of the pandemic. With that said, is there a cutoff time for applicants? We move on. I'm also happy, right, that so many families with
encourage you to call back just in case the call dropped out. I recognize the voice and I know you're a regular caller, and I would definitely encourage you to try again. But we'll move on to another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, my question is the quarantine thing.
Hello? You can go ahead. We're listening. To call back, you had a question about the quarantine conditions, and we have persons here who are in a position to answer those questions, any questions regarding that. So please, I encourage you to try again, but we'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Hello. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Okay, so I think at this stage we can just answer the questions that we have, and we will definitely go back to the phone lines. We're going to do all that we can to ensure we get as many questions and calls as possible. But we have someone asking about the donation of field hospitals that was announced. Where are we with that donation? Where will they be placed? And have things been put in place to ensure that the necessary infrastructure will be there once they have been put up?
See?
No, go ahead.
Yes, well, first of all, the caller said that New Zealand locked down after this one case, and we need to clarify that in that all the listed lockdown, they're basically on the curfew from midnight to morning after one case, and there are a number of countries, including ours, that are still under state of emergency and curfew. So it's not really a strict lockdown, but it's a curfew that was put in place, and we need to make sure that we got that straight. I think Mr. Abdias Samuels announced a week or two ago at the briefing that we received 2 field hospitals. And sometimes when persons hear a field hospital, they might think it's a hospital that is fully equipped with all the necessary equipment and supplies. But generally speaking, these are usually tents that you can outfit to make a field hospital if cases surge. We have a contingency plan in place from the very beginning, where we said that we would use the private ward of the Josephine France Hospital and command more and more of the institution if cases rise. We also, however, know how we can stop cases from rising by persons going out and getting vaccinated, because even if we get an increase in case counts in the persons who are vaccinated, we know that the likelihood of those persons requiring hospitalization is very, very low. And everything comes back to us getting vaccinated. I'm very happy that we have vaccines now for our 12 to 18-year-olds, and so I want to use this opportunity again to encourage persons to go out and get vaccinated. Don't be focusing on where we're going to put you if we're going to have you in a field hospital. Don't be focusing on the ventilator. Don't be focusing on the oxygen concentrator. Focus on getting vaccinated to prevent yourself from getting there in the hospital.
Asking if teachers are fully vaccinated, and they're asking if teachers are fully vaccinated, and if a parent does not want to vaccinate their child, what happens in such a case?
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. I really would have loved to say yes, teachers are fully vaccinated. We have put the measures in place. We had a number of informational sessions throughout the length and breadth of the country. Teachers that were given off time to come to these informational sessions. We had nurses and other medical personnel on hand to deliver the vaccinations at the end of these sessions. Actually, it was at the end of one session at Keon Primary School where we had teachers from the Keon community, where I took my first jab, and the second one I took at Parkson in Sandy Point. Now, we would expect that teachers as leaders in the community will be teachers in the community, as leaders in the community, will be amongst the persons who would want to get vaccinated first, quickly, because they know the importance of this. They recognize the importance of this. We have some statistics, some data data from the Ministry of Health, and it is showing that not a significant number of teachers have been vaccinated. In fact, the data that we looked at didn't only show teachers, but it also showed persons who work in schools, persons who work in school meals and other departments, units within the Ministry of Education. So we use this platform again to really encourage our teachers to go out and get vaccinated, especially as we prepare to move back to face-to-face instruction in schools. Now that we have the vaccine, that has added another layer of protection for teachers themselves. And if teachers are serious about their own health, as that quotation said earlier, health is the new wealth, then they have to go out to be vaccinated and to encourage others, as well as to ensure that the children, to encourage the children in their charge when we get to that point to be vaccinated. If parents do not want their children to be vaccinated, as far as the Ministry of Education is concerned, there's nothing we can do. We leave that for the lawmakers, the legal authorities, the competent authorities, the government, to decide what will happen. So what I would say is that we would cross that bridge when we get to it. But certainly I would want to encourage teachers, parents, adults who work with children to get vaccinated.
Yes, sir.
I've been in touch with a number of persons who have been infected with the coronavirus. And as we said from the data, the majority of them are unvaccinated. And it is when they're huffing and puffing and short of breath that they're having regrets over not listening to the message or listening to the person who ill-advised them and told them not to get vaccinated. And many of them wishing that they could get the vaccine at the time when they're huffing and puffing. Some of them when they're on the COVID ward and they realize they have to be getting 10, 15, 20, 30 injections during the short stay that they have there. They regretted not coming forward to get just one jab. And so don't wait until it is too late. But as a teacher, as someone who we entrust our children's lives with, you have a moral responsibility. More so I'm speaking now to the primary school teachers, because the 12 to 18-year-olds, I believe that they will listen to us and they will make a decision, or they will try and impress upon their parents so that they can come forward and get vaccinated. But those parents who are looking after, those teachers who are looking after our little ones, you have a moral responsibility to go out and get vaccinated.
Thank you so much for your response to those questions. We'll go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hi, good evening. My question is to the doctor. I want to know how soon before he would start recommending booster shots for the vaccinated. I know that here in the States they're talking about after 8 months they kind of, start giving booster shots. That was my question. How soon would he be recommending the booster shots in St. Kitts Nevis? Thank you.
Don't hang up. That you're not very clear. You're not coming through very clear. We were having difficulty hearing your question, and we definitely want to hear what you've decided to call in and ask. So could you repeat that and just maybe speak a little more clearly, given the whatever is happening with the phone line? Hello? Okay. Well, if you're listening off air for the response to that question, booster shots. Okay. So we will. The doctor will respond to whether or not booster shots are necessary and anything else he can add regarding booster shots. And if that was not your question, please feel free to call back and clarify. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night, Ms. Brian. I'm back. I'm not sure how much of the question you heard, so allow me to repeat myself. My first thing was to commend the government and the rolling out of the stimulus package, and also to say to the government, I'm happy that persons who have families that are disability also a part of the stimulus. You really have to give the government recommendation and kudos for taking this initiative. I also asked about the North Street vending, how it's coming along. I've heard some talks about it. I've heard stuff in the news. So I will let you get an update on the status of that. And the last question that I would have asked is there a date for the Pfizer vaccine? When you're going to start the rollout? And also, what will be the time frame for the second jab? Because we have seen with the other vaccine before, the time span has changed. So I'm wondering if there's a time span set and if it could change over time.
Look, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patience and for calling back. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters, you're live.
Hello, good night. Good night to the Prime Minister and his panel. I'm going to go off course a little bit tonight. It doesn't have anything to do with the vaccine. So I know the Prime Minister says that no one is going to be left out, and that is something really good to say. However, I remember during the campaign season, he made mention of non-established workers becoming pensionable. We haven't gotten an update on that as yet, so I'm wondering what are the measures being taken if they already started to work on it, because it's unfair for persons who are in who work for the civil service, or I don't think they're actually termed civil servants, but who works for the government. After they may put in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they go home and they're not pensionable. They don't have a pen. They won't be receiving a pension, or they're eligible for Social Security. So I would like to know what the updates on that, on the process of those persons becoming pensionable after the end of their tenure. I listen off here. Thank you.
And thank you for your question nonetheless. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hi, President. Good evening. Hello.
Yes, you're coming through loud and clear.
Yes, I first of all would like to say, President, good evening to your head table and to you, the host. I have two direct questions. One is for the Dr. Wilkerson, and one is for the Honorable Prime Minister. Firstly, I would like to ask the question. In terms of the AstraZeneca, and you would have consumed that, and then there is another second shot for you, based on that it was expired on the 31st of July. Is there another set of AstraZeneca coming, or you would have to take something else? Because I would think there's a mix there. I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, but that's why I'm asking. Or is one in process of coming to the, because I didn't hear, I heard about a new one. And for somebody who I take care of, has taken, they're supposed to be going in September, and they're due their next shot. What would be the advice? Because I don't think you should mix two chemicals together, as I would be somebody who knows about a little mixing of things. That advice I would wait for you. Now, on to the Honorable Prime Minister. In terms of the package, it sounds very good, and I think a lot of folks would be happy with it. It is a little amazing that some folks who would have applied to the development bank and got some assistance for small business loans, they have gotten through, their business are functional, and they have filed this $1,000 monthly for the 3 months you have offered. And it is strange that people who are not, and I like to speak because I will only speak for me, and others will agree with me, but they're afraid. People, they have gotten the package. When they told me, it's my money here, I said, but you got and I can't get. I know it's going to take a time process. It's not for me to query, how do you do it? That is not my job. But I think if doing a proper investigation of the money that were paid out, severance pay, Because from me, I can use, I can speak personally for me. I got a package from the severance, and it was not even close to, anywhere close to 10,000. And one doctor took all of it, $8,400. And I'm still unemployed. And then, when I spoke about it, PM, I would have to say that Prime Minister, because you're the boss, you know. A lot of word is coming to my face. We must take that, because that's what we vote for. I don't know who went in the room and voted for me. An election has gone, look how long. Thank God for people. I have migrated to another village, which is your constituency, that's what they say. And God bless people. But I want to know, why is it that some people are getting through so quickly? And imagine this is the same documents are given at the same time. And this is the question we're asking. And you know that boy, I asked him to sing, get the rest of this song, Dejo, because it would be a good song, you know, vaccine. It is good.
I think we've gotten the gist of what you've been asking. Both your questions, the one for the doctor and the one for the Prime Minister. Thank you so much for participating. We're going to take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes, good night.
Good evening.
Just one question.
Sure.
Am I understanding that the Pfizer will just be for the ages 12 to 18 only? Or,
okay,
you know, older person will be able to take it?
Everyone, 12 years and above.
Okay, so that question has been noted and it will be put to the doctor. We have the medical chief of staff here for the GNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and he will provide more information about the Pfizer vaccine. But thank you for your contribution nonetheless. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yeah, hello, good evening. How are you?
Hi, good evening. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to chime in real quick. Two quick questions. One, I've been hearing about some houses up at Wellington Road. They're in St. that's not being distributed to the people. Did the Prime Minister know why, you know, the recipients, you know, the people who sign up for those houses, if the Prime Minister have any information about why those houses are still being held back? And number two question is, I understand that there might have been 10 cruise ships that's canceled port of calls to St. Kitts. So I wanted to know if that's correct and why those ships were canceled and when is the next cruise ship scheduled to be docked into St. Kitts. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your questions. They have been noted. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Prime Minister, and good evening to everybody in the name of Jesus Christ, the only Savior of sinners. Now, first of all, I would like to say, to the best of my knowledge and from what I have read, children 18 and under, very rare, they suffer negatively from the COVID. As a matter of fact, I was even hearing today that the flu takes more children's lives than the COVID. And now what they're finding is that young people seem to be developing a heart, young people like under 18 and so, seem to be developing a heart problem, I think called myocarditis or something like that. The doctor wouldn't know the proper name because of the vaccine. So from what I've heard, it seems to me a young person under 18 are more at risk in developing something negative from the vaccine than they are to develop something from the COVID. So my question is, if they are at more risk, which it seems to me to be the case, of being negatively affected from the vaccine than from the COVID, why vaccinate them? That's number one. Number two, stats coming out of, for example, Israel, is showing that the people who are filling up the hospitals in Israel mostly are people who have been vaccinated, and it from what I've heard as well, the vaccine seems to be offering very little defense where transmissions are concerned to the Delta variant. And it is even said that the vaccines are now failing where these mutations are concerned. Even today now, I was on the WHO reading up on the AstraZeneca. And when it came to transmissions and that sort of stuff, they were very guarded in their language as to transmission. As a matter of fact, I think that this is something to the effect is that we don't have.
You would know that I'm not one to call because I love when people call into the program, whether you have a topic or a question about what the panelists are here to talk about or any other thing. But it's important that when you call in, you listen to me so that I can help to get your question to the right person, that we can hear exactly what you want to say, that we know exactly what your concerns are. So it's important that when you call in, you're able to communicate with me over the phone and that you listen when I'm trying to communicate with you. So I was trying to indicate to that caller who was setting the scene to his questions, and that is fine, and had asked the first question, and of course he was setting the scene for his second question, but I was trying to communicate with the caller that the doctor wanted to make an intervention regarding the information he was giving, and he didn't seem to be able to hear me at all. So I thought it was important to explain why I cut that call, because it's not something that I do regularly. So, Dr. Wilkinson, you wanted to
I think it's
speak
important,
to some information.
yes. I think it's important for us not to allow people to use this platform to spread misinformation, especially when it comes to medical information, because one can call in and ask a question, but you cannot call in and spout your misinformation on this platform, because I will not be a part of that. And so I want to make it clear that children can be adversely affected by COVID-19, and the Delta virus is starting to affect children even more. And there are children who have died from COVID-19, and even if the numbers are small compared to adults, if you have a child and you lose that child, you would know that that loss is significant. So even one child that is lost to COVID-19 is significant. And so it's important for us to be able to protect our children. It is also false to say that in Israel, the people who are packing the hospitals are people who are vaccinated, because all of the science has shown that getting vaccinated significantly decreases your risk of getting severe disease and hospitalization. And so anybody who is calling here to spread false information like that, they need to be cut. And I'll make no apologies for that.
Okay, so we're going to, at this stage, before we go back to the phone lines, let's also try to address some of the other calls we would have gotten so far. And we had a caller who had asked, how soon would someone need a booster shot? At least I think that's what they were asking. I asked her to call back if that was not her question, because we would want to get it right. So how soon would someone need a booster shot?
Okay, so there has been a lot of discussions about booster shots. And there are some persons who are immunocompromised, and immunocompromised mean that their immune system is compromised such that they would not be able to mount a significant response when they are vaccinated. And persons in that category are people, for example, who are on high steroids, people who are taking anti-cancer drugs, persons who were recipients of transplants where they're taking drugs to suppress their immune system, persons with HIV, or some persons who were born with some immune deficiency disease, and these persons would not have been able to mount a significant response to protect themselves after 2 doses. And the science is showing that these persons can benefit from a booster shot. There has also been discussion about offering booster shots to persons who were fully vaccinated after about 8 months because the level of immunity might wane. But again, no one is safe until everyone is safe. And the thought of giving a person in the first world who is protected by 1 and 2 shots, a third shot, while we have a number of countries that still have no access to vaccines, I don't think that that is morally correct. And so I am happy, for example, that the United States has offered vaccines to all of our Caribbean neighbors, and that is the altruistic thing that we are looking from first world countries to make sure that vaccines get to everyone. I think there was also a question about the AstraZeneca vaccine and
for persons who have their first dose and are due for a second one.
Right, yes, and he was speaking about expired doses, etc. I think that we had already put that question to rest. We have never used any expired vaccines, and so the previous batch of...
What he was asking is that we have said that all the doses of AstraZeneca have now expired. So for persons who have their
No. We have never said that.
No?
No, because we're still...
Well, that's what I gather. So if you could explain to him. So if I have my first dose and I need my second dose...
What I understood that he was speaking about the expiration of the first set of vaccine that expired in July, and we got a new set that we are using, and those will expire at the end of August. Okay, and even after those are expired, if somebody had their first shot with the AstraZeneca vaccine, we will continue to source more vaccines so that they can get their second dose at a later date. But no expired vaccines are used on persons.
Okay, I think you should make the point that if 4 weeks would have elapsed, he should go now for his second shot.
Yes, okay, and that's important. So anybody out there who would have had their first shot, and once 4 weeks has elapsed, it's important for you to come forward and get your second shot. And we've been seeing persons coming forward to get their second shot before the 31st of August. Someone also asked about the Pfizer vaccine and if it will only be given to the 12 to 18-year-old. No, it will be given to anybody over the age of 12. And I'm happy that we have 11,700 doses now, and we should be getting 23,400 doses later on. So we should have enough to vaccinate adolescents and adults. And so once the vaccination program has started, you can come forward. Somebody also asked when we will be starting the vaccination program. We don't have a set date as yet because we are continuing to do the training, etc. with the nurses. There's a lot that has to be put in place where, you know, the Pfizer is stored at an ultra cold storage, -80. We have to train them to thaw it up to -20 and then to refrigerated temperature. And so all this training is being done, so when we start the rollout, we can move forward, and that should be soon.
Okay, thank you for that. Because
I think he was asking the question, if you take one vaccine, can you, for your first jab, can you take another type of vaccine for the second?
Yes, that's what I was going to say, because he did ask if you take the... I just want to be clear on what to make sure the caller is clear, and I guess a lot of other people will benefit from it. If you take your first dose and you don't take it at a time when you can take your second dose, he did ask, what advice do you have for the second shot? And if you could take the Pfizer as a second dose. That's what I gather. But I guess when we combine all of it, it will be information that everybody can benefit from.
At this point in time, we have no plans to mix and match vaccines. And so even, for example, if you got an AstraZeneca shot on the 30th of August, we would give you a date for at least 12 weeks down the line with the understanding that we continue to source more vaccines, just like in the first batch. And hopefully once we get these vaccines within a couple of weeks, we will be calling you back in before the 12-week period to get your second shot. So there is no plan at this point in time to mix and match vaccines.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Teamwork, good teamwork. Thank you so much. We have a question also about the Pfizer vaccine, asking if there's an established timeline for between the first dose and the second dose.
Yes, 3 weeks.
Okay. We have a question about vending on North Square Street. The caller wanted an update on how that is coming along.
North Street is moving along nicely. We have already the site being substantially prepared. Today we had blocks and cement being provided. Construction work has started today and will continue. Plumbing has already started. The electrical poles have been planted. They're already wired. And everything basically is on go. The SL Horsford and Company, just after 7 this morning, delivered additional supplies of material which will ensure that the program now can go full steam ahead. As I indicated in my opening remarks, we have already put aside about $100,000 to help with the preparation. Apart from the street lighting, already taken to the site, and flood lighting, we will have CCTV cameras to provide an additional protection. We will have water on site, of course, for health reasons. We will have toilet facilities, etc., and proper disposal of waste on the site, and all those elements work has started in each area of that and will be brought to completion hopefully by next week. But today was a significant day. Those walls that were broken in being renovated and action being taken on them, and the contractor has been employed. The contractor reported on the job today, and he's been working closely with one body and other technicians to ensure that the job is moving apace. So we are very confident about what is happening at North Street.
We have some callers on the line holding, so we're going to go straight to the phone lines. Just to share with you quickly, once again, if you also want to participate and you're not sure how to, the numbers are listed at the bottom of the screen, but I'll also announce them right now. 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. You can also send WhatsApp messages to 661-5683, that's 661-5683, or 660-7168, that's 660-7168. So we'll go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good night.
Yes. Good evening.
I want to congratulate the PL for doing a wonderful job for this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And people going to talk and say what they want to say, but don't study them PM. Keep doing your good work. You understand? God bless the whole of you guys. Good night.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hi, good evening to the panel.
Good evening.
And good morning to those on the other side of the world. I would like to commend the government for all the work that it's been doing. There was a call. I remember the Prime Minister asking about anyone who can help. Now, there was a case, this goes to a discussion for Dr. Wilkerson. I remember the first time I met Dr. Wilkerson. It was a great privilege. It was at the Jane France Hospital. My friend, he was going into surgery for appendicitis, and at the time he was told, not by the doctor but by someone else, to just drink a bottle of water and you'll be okay. And he chose to drink that bottle of water, and he was fine. He still has his appendix, and everything is fine with him right now. And now the question is, are we interested in looking at alternative medicine? I mean, a simple thing as drinking water and being healed of appendicitis, well, just before going into the operation theater, is something I think the good doctor should be interested in. So the question is, are we really serious about getting the nation healed, and are we looking at alternative medicine and, putting God first in what we do? So that's basically my question for this evening. Thank you.
Noted your question, and I will put it to the doctor. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. You're live.
Hello, good evening. My question is to Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. If you already have the 2 AstraZeneca vaccines and you're older, could you explain if we can get the boost, when we should get the booster shot, and if we're going to get the same AstraZeneca booster shot?
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes, good night, Ms. Lady host of the program, and to the members of the panel. I have some questions. I'm so grateful to have 3 very important persons as part of the panel tonight. One, I will refer to the inspector. When an officer discharges his firearm, but it's being given while on duty, doesn't he have to report to his authorities why he had to discharge that firearm, or if it is that he discharged a pepper spray canister, the latter part goes to the same thing too. And I want to know, why isn't it a law that states if a police in distress and he asks a civilian for assistance and the civilian refuses, couldn't that individual be charged and arrested? I'm going to the doctor now. Mr. Wilkerson, it's to do with me being pepper sprayed in hand reach. It's in the 7th week now it is. And unto now, unto presently now, nobody saying, well, I don't been to the hospital with the eye specialist.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, caller. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that this matter has already been...
No, because it's to do with the pandemic too, because it was to do with some person refusing to wear the mask, and I had was supposed to...
No, I'm saying to you that to my knowledge, this matter has already been lodged with the police. I think you've made a formal complaint.
No, but I'll tell you something also, right? Because...
No, I'm saying to you, if you have a...
Please give me a chance to explain.
No, I want to guide you in your explanation and say that having made a formal complaint of the matter, you shouldn't divulge too much information about it, so I would suggest you go straight to your question for the doctor.
I'm going straight to the question. To me, I'd like to know how long would it take for an individual to go totally blind without getting assistance or the use of these glasses. And to the Minister of National Security, what else could I do? I went to the assistance because it's to do with the pandemic also. Persons refusing to wear the mask, and then they went and they charged an island constable. I went to his assistance, and at the end of it, my fam gets a kind of how, and it's like I lose X amount of money and I can't go because I'm supposed to, and it's like the 7th week and may hear nothing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And I know that matter is being looked into by the police. I'm familiar with that case, not in depth, but I'm familiar that that particular case has been lodged. A formal complaint has been lodged with the police and is being investigated. We will take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night. Good night to everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, good night. I just called in to big up the Prime Minister and the panel there. Wonderful, wonderful job. Prime Minister, you keep on doing the good work to the people of St. Kitts Nevis. After heaven is St. Kitts Nevis. People, they mean St. Kitts blessed, but they don't know. They don't know that they're blessed. Prime Minister, look, but I was looking for you up in the corner, you're Mr. Henry, but I don't see the shade. Every time I see you look good. This one.
Thank you.
Keep on doing the wonderful work. Who God bless, no man curse. And let me tell you, you can't please everybody. Don't care what you do. Some gone glad and some gone sad, and you keep on doing the best. You're not perfect, but it's the best thing ever happened to St. Kitts Nevis. After heaven is St. Kitts Nevis and the Prime Minister. And good night to everybody. And when people walk in, people must understand people gonna run their businesses how they want, just like how we gonna run our body how we want. If people decide you have to come on your job and you have to fully vaccinate, that's the business. They run the business how you want. You can't run your body how you want. I want to come in my business. Go. No, it cannot work. So Prime Minister, you have a blessed night and a safe journey home. Thumbs up to you. Every time I see you look good, blessing flowing. Don't let nobody bring you down. You keep on doing the good work. You're looking good, but you are looking beyond that. Good night.
Good night, Unity.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Oh.
Yes, hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to the panel. Discussion to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. Now, Mr. PM, there's a concern growing situation in St. Kitts and Nevis with the price of goods rising. We don't have VAT and food stuff that so many prices in the supermarkets them is so high. The cost of living is high, especially under this pandemic. And I'm not hearing anything from you guys. I mean, the supermarket ramens and this turn up the price very, very high. The gas have gone up from 12 something to 13 something. Everything is rising. And the salary of $360 where you campaigned and said that is not any money. Where that if you get in, you will take up to $500 a week. And we are not seeing the salary moving, but we are seeing the...
So that caller, I have never said any $500.
So,
never did.
So, Mr. PM, so when the increase of salary is going to rise? When the increase of salary is going to rise, and we would like to know what happened to the price of goods. It's so high in those supermarkets because if you take off VAT off of food stuff, and we are seeing the price of these stuff in the supermarket rise because you're going today and then you're going the next day, the price are gone up. So I would like to hear from you, sir, as the Minister of Finance. Why is it the supermarket price is so high?
We will address that.
Most of your concerns regarding the increase in price of goods and increase in salaries. Thank you so much for your contribution. We have about 2 callers left, I'm told, so we'll take those and then we'll take a quick break. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you and good evening to the rest of the persons on the program. A question to the Prime Minister, and I think if Mr. Hodge want to also shed some light on it, he probably could. Some program. Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay. Yes. Some programs ago, the Prime Minister would have spoke to persons, trying different things, venturing into different things, that especially person who would have been in maybe in the hotel sector or the taxing, taxiing and stuff like that. Okay, and before he would have said that, really, I would have take my own initiative in terms of trying to do something else and different. Okay, what that is, in other words, is going in since the rolling out of the stoplights in the Basseterre area. A lot of streets would become one way or either no parking. So that left a lot of areas in Basseterre where you can't park. So I would have looked at the area in Basseterre, which is the BHS. Okay, and I thought that would have been a good area for me to do some business and also employ persons because I alone wouldn't be able to do it myself. What the plans I have, I probably have to hire maybe about 5, 6, maybe up to 10 other persons with me, right? I would have write to the Ministry of Education since some months ago, and would have spoke to Mr. Hodge also, and I appreciate him. I think I get some good advice from him and stuff like that. But up to this present moment, I haven't heard anything back from the Ministry of Education, in terms of what the positioning is. And I know that they would have gotten my letter. And, up to now, I still haven't gotten anything. And, we are asking persons to do different things or try different things. And we hear when someone come up with ideas to, something that they can do and not just for themselves and to probably employ other person with them, you're not getting any assistance or any response in terms of things. So I would like the Prime Minister, if he could shed some light on it now, please, for me, and maybe when he go to cabinet, if he could bring it up with his cabinet colleagues as to, what is the situation in terms of the Basseterre High School, and the person who are interested in myself, who are interested in probably using that area to do some business. Thank you, and I'll continue to listen to your program.
Thank you so much, sir, for your contribution. We'll take our final call for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Jackie and your panel. Jackie, sometime earlier somebody asked a question about some houses up at Wellington Road and about the cruise ship, but I don't know if you did note it, but I'm still waiting to hear something about that.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. That has been noted, absolutely. But we had callers on hold, and you don't want to have anyone on the line for too long, so I paused the questions from callers to go to the phone lines to give persons like yourself an opportunity to get into the show before we cut off the calls, and this would have been our last round of calls. So thank you so much for the reminder. We will take a break now, and once we return, we'll answer the remaining questions we got from all our callers, and we will take as many as we can from the WhatsApp messages. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
We know there are moments when life just doesn't go as planned, and our days pretty much takes us where it wants to. But for every missed occasion, there's a great opportunity. We are making it easier to make bill payments, report faults, and receive bill balances through our automated call-in service available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Simply call 465-2000 and say or press 2 to access our automated customer service system. Say or press 2 to make a payment via credit card. Enter your 8-digit SKELEC account number as seen on your bill. Enter the amount you wish to pay without a decimal point. For example, enter 2000 for a $20 payment. Have your credit card on hand to enter your credit card number, expiration date, and security number. One phone call gives you the power to regain control of your day. SKELEC's interactive voice response system. SKELEC, powering responses.
I will take the vaccine because building defenses against COVID-19 is a team effort, and we are all a key part of that defense.
I definitely will be taking the vaccine when it's my turn.
I will be taking the vaccine as it is an important tool in the fight against the pandemic.
It is important for me to vaccinate to ensure that if I do become infected with the disease, it can prevent hospitalization. In addition, it also helps with herd immunity.
I will take the vaccine to protect myself, my loved ones, my clients, my co-workers, my community.
St. Kitts and Nevis, why do we need to vaccinate? Kenisha? So we can jab COVID-19 away.
I will take the vaccine because building defenses against COVID-19 is a team effort, and we are all a key part of that defense.
I definitely will be taking the vaccine when it's my turn.
I will be taking the vaccine as it is an important tool in the fight against the pandemic.
It is important for me to vaccinate to ensure that if I do become infected with the disease, it can prevent hospitalization. In addition, it also helps with herd immunity.
I will take the vaccine to protect myself, my loved ones, my clients, my co-workers.
You never know where the head is at. So, welcome back to Leadership Matters. And my name is Jacqueline Bryan. I've been your moderator. This program is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. And he's joined this evening by 3 special guests. They are Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Hodge, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, and Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. And we have some unanswered questions from callers we got just before we took the break, and we're going to go back to those now. We have a question asking if there is a cutoff time for applications to the stimulus package. Mr. Prime Minister?
I want to thank Becky, got it for that question. We have established the 15th of September as the cutoff date with respect to application for the 3 components of the stimulus package that have announced. That is the $1,000 per month support to persons who have remained unemployed for the period since March 2020, when we had the onset of the COVID-19, and then the support, of course, to those with disabilities. That is almost 100% satisfied. We have had over 100 plus applications. When we look at the role of the special education, they have about 120 students there. So the numbers we have are reflective of that, and so I believe that that has been one of the most successful rollout, and we want to commend those who have persons living with disabilities for seizing the opportunities to have some additional support. We have also provided, I think it was $15,000 to assist AIDS Place at Greenlands, which has a role of about just under 30 students who are actually trainees there, and they basically have been, that school have been operating largely out of the benevolence of the proprietor, or owner I should say, Dr. Robertine Chatterton, and all the costs are basically met by her. The building is in fact owned by her, and she has made that available. We had from them a budget for the next 3 months, and the government had been generous enough to give support so that those students or trainees, perhaps more aptly put, would not be disadvantaged. So we think that the cutoff of September 15th would certainly be a generous one. And based on the number of applications that have already come in, I think it is absolutely reasonable. So if there are persons out there who are interested in applying, they certainly are free to do so, and they will be processed. I want, while I'm that, to speak to something I think was said by movie star regarding, as it were, having applied and not yet having a response. We should have a call desk, someone at the Ministry of Finance who should be able to give an update. What we do know, based on analysis done by the officials at the Ministry of Finance, there are a number of forms, applications that would have come in that were not completed. And once the form is not completed, it makes it difficult to process. So if a form comes in, for example, no social security number, then it makes it difficult to do the cross-check against the social security records to ensure that that person is really unemployed, which is one element of the criteria established for a person to benefit. I heard movie star says, for example, that he got his severance. The payment of severance is an important indicator. So if on your form you did not indicate that, then that form will have to be held over so that further investigations, contact be made with the applicant to ensure that the critical data is had, critical pieces of information is being had. If your severance was over 15,000, then you would be outside of the range for consideration. I believe in his particular case, the caller did say that he got below that amount, so he would qualify for that particular benefit. It is a lot of applications, near 4,000, 3,600 plus, I think I revealed this week, have come in. And so they will take some time to process, and the process involves several activities, ensuring completeness, as I just spoke about, doing the necessary cross-checking to ensure that the assistance is going to those targeted and intended to benefit. What I would say, if it is any comfort, and it should be, is that any application that is being denied by the technical team or the processing team will be further reviewed by a committee not involved in the processing. So a separate pair of eyes would be put to making a determination of the claims that are denied, and that is to ensure that the widest cross-section of persons would have had the opportunity to benefit from the stimulus package. So there will be a review process, and that process should be starting very soon. I will make a check with the Ministry of Finance to determine when that process of review would be in place. So again, I just urge again for some patience. I would say to those who are waiting, it is within your rights to call the Ministry of Finance and to inquire of the status of your application, and you will get an update of your case.
Speaking of status, we had a caller who asked for an update on non-established workers becoming pensionable.
That one we addressed before, that we are still committed to that. And basically, I said then that the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic had been disruptive in terms of the operations and led to a reorganization of the priorities. That is, what do we have to do just now? What can we defer? We have determined that we will still implement the regularization of the non-establishment workers or government auxiliary employees. We have said that in the meantime we will ensure that there will be no disadvantage to those who are in the system. Every GAE worker who would have put in a certain number of years on exiting the system now would receive some form of payment, almost along the lines of what would have happened if they were put on the severance program. So there is some support that being paid. The issue of the pension, of course, will come with the regularization, and the technical team has essentially completed about 90% of the work. There are some recommendations that are to be determined by the cabinet, and those will be done. So it is still a strong commitment for the reasons the caller gave. We want to put people in a stronger and better position at the time of their exit, and we are going through with that. But one would appreciate all the disruption of COVID-19, and we therefore had to reassign manpower to some of the critical programs that we are now engaged. For example, the stimulus program required that we move persons from across ministries in order that it could work, because you have now 94,000 applications to be prioritized and to be delivered within a critical window. So we have had persons from human resource who are working in the Ministry of Finance. We have persons taken from the Accountant General's Department and sent to work on this program in the Ministry of Finance. We have about 2 or 3 persons relocated, reassigned from the Ministry the Department, of Inland Revenue to go to work in that particular special project, if you will, to ensure the delivery. And all these then means that the dedicated manpower that would have been there for some of these specific things would have been less, and therefore the output would not have been the same, as we refocus basically in an efficient way of getting these special projects going.
Thank you so much for that. We have a question also, Mr. Prime Minister. This one is for you, about the houses on Wellington Road, asking why they haven't been distributed as yet. Do you have an update on that?
What I can say today, I asked the Minister of Housing, because I anticipated that we would have a question such as the one that was posed for an update. Last I checked my phone, I had not yet received it. What I do know, however, that the Wellington project is a joint venture between, broadly speaking, the government of Venezuela and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the principal operator, the principal agent for the government of Venezuela has been off island and medical leave for an extended period of time. We have been communicating with her. There was some paperwork that needed to be finalized, some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. I think her physical absence from the state, and given the nature or the reason for absence from the state, that have helped to create a delay. Those houses which are now complete are expected very shortly, I hope, to be given out to those who would have qualified. So we are substantially there. I would say 98% of the way, from my recollection of what was put to me some time before. And I am very positive that very shortly we will be announcing a date for those homes, as we would be announcing a date for those in St. Peter's, as we would be announcing a date for those in Mansion. Two sets of those houses, Wellington Road and Mansion, have been supported by the government of Venezuela. So they are under the same arrangement. I know those in Mansions, they are substantially complete. There is some work being done by one Tuki for Mansion in relation to some of the carpentry work. And so we are advanced, and I would just ask, though long, in the context of the COVID-19 and all of the disruptions, very soon we will have very good news for all those who are waiting.
I also asked about the cruise ship. Can you speak to whether or not 10 cruise ships canceled their port of call? And if that was in fact the case, why? And when is the next cruise ship call due?
I can't speak to that. What I do know is that the cruise itinerary changes from day to day for a number of reasons. Some of them are outside of our control. And at the next press conference, certainly I would be in a better position to give a fuller account of what is happening there. We don't control the itinerary of the cruise ships, and cancellation is not a new feature of the cruise business here or anywhere else. So I wouldn't put too much upon that. The government has a duty, nonetheless, in the context of the environment in which we live, to ensure that cruise visitors to our island would be able to operate in a bubble. That is our preference, of course. We do that to protect our people here, and we are working with the cruise lines. I know up to yesterday the Minister of Tourism and his chief advisor, Raquel Brown, should have been in consultation with them. We are ready to accept cruises to St. Kitts and Nevis. We have had, I think, maybe one or two vessels that have come. One, in fact, came on a day where we had inclement weather, and that, of course, had brought an unsatisfactory end to their visit here. So that is where that business is at. I think in the last press conference, though, the minister did indicate that we should be seeing some cruise, I think, in September. But that, of course, I could verify and have an update because like with most things that are impacted by COVID-19, every day the news can change, and that is part of the relatively new normal we have to deal with at this time. But we are optimistic for the cruise season, and for the rest of the year we are going to have ships coming.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time out to answer all those questions. Doctor, we have a question for you asking, how serious are we interested in looking into alternative medicine where the COVID-19 virus is concerned?
Well, the caller said a few things. He said, number one, that I should put God first, and I always put God first. He spoke about water for treating appendicitis, and if that were so, no one will have appendicitis, because I assume everyone drinks water. I see the Prime Minister drinking some right now. Okay, but alternative medicine, I believe that it can be used in conjunction with modern medicine. I drink my lemongrass tea every morning, but one cannot ignore science, and there is no point in you having to eat a forest to get better as opposed to taking a pill. And so I believe that we must find a balance, and so there is no way we'll be going on the route of using alternative medicine to treat COVID-19 when over 4 billion doses of vaccines have already been administered, and we know that it works.
I know you spoke earlier to taking booster shots, but this person had a particular concern, saying that they're an older person, and was wondering if it was...
there is no plan as yet to give any booster shots for the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Thank you so much for that. Superintendent Henry, we had a caller who asked if...
And just to add in relation to the booster shots, the World Health Organization, through its chief, Dr. Tedros, have basically invited those advanced countries that were talking and for starting to put a hold on booster shots, given the inequality in vaccine availability. He felt that it was important for developing countries, poor countries, vulnerable countries in Africa, in Asia, all around the world, to be able to get at least their first shot in before countries begin to say that they are doing the booster shots.
Superintendent Henry had a question that was asked, if an officer discharges his firearm while on duty or uses pepper spray, does it need to be reported? Do they need to report it to their supervisors?
Yes, absolutely. Any discharging of a firearm or any use of equipment that is issued by the police in the course of your duty or otherwise, that police is obligated to submit a report in writing, not just come and say, I discharged my firearm. He has to report to the commissioner in writing as to the nature of the discharge and the reasons surrounding the discharge or use of any equipment issued to him.
And also, this question was asked, so you can clarify so the public is more aware. If a police is in distress and asks a civilian for assistance and the civilian does not assist, can they be charged?
Yes, the civilians are obligated by law to assist the police when called upon to do so in the discharge of their duties.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Prime Minister, I think this one, you actually were trying to make an intervention while the caller was speaking regarding the increase in the cost of goods and an increase in salaries.
First, we never gave any figure that constitute whether 500, 600, that was never part of our campaign. What we pursued and captured the imagination of people was the construct, the notion, the idea, what is a livable wage? What is the minimum that people in St. Kitts and Nevis must have to be able to live and maintain a life of dignity? And we put that out to the people in 2015. And we have, since we have come to the government, accepted that the $360 was an inadequate response to what we constitute the livable wage of persons, having regard to cost of living, having regard to family size. And we offered a very effective response. We say, for example, where the household income was lower than $3,000, that person would get an immediate grant or top-up of $500 from the government. That is in place. Tonight I reported that about 5,000 persons are now benefiting from that. Some of them, of course, met the criteria of $3,000, largely because one party may have lost a job in the household and it is intended for the household. But $500 per month, if we take 4 weeks for ease of arithmetic, is adding $125 per week. So even if the caller was right, and he was very wrong when he said we did say 500, you add 125 to 360, you get 485. So it is very close to what the caller himself proposes to be an acceptable livable wage. The more important point is that around the world there is an increased cost in the cost of living as a result of the, I would say, the pent-up demand that has come as societies open more from the COVID, persons learning to live more. You listen to CNN, you listen to BBC, that is now a talk. That there is heightened inflation, there is movement in interest rates, there is movement in gasoline prices, and for us in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the Caribbean, the bulk of the inflation that we experience is imported because we purchase too many things that we need. If we take food, I am sure, almost certain, 99% of everything, the dollar value of all that we consume. If we go to clothing, almost identical. So we then suffer the consequence of heightened inflation in the source countries. In those markets, we import that into our space. On the other hand, when and for a prolonged period, cost of living was almost not moving in an adverse way. And that was a consequence again of the same circumstances in the source markets from which we got our chicken, our sugar and everything else that we consume. Those prices were stable and in fact moving down. There was a time, maybe up to last year, when the cost of gasoline at the pump was basically drastically down. However, with all that is happening and the uncertainties and the disruption, we have seen again that begin to take an uptake. And we are hoping that these things would over time normalize. The quicker, the better, of course, for us. What can we do is to continue the monitoring. And we are fortunate in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's not perfect that we have several wholesalers and retailers, and we're asking people to exercise choice. If you go into one supermarket and you think that they, as it were, overcharging, you have the option to move to another one. The discipline of the market is still, in capitalist societies like those in which we live, one of the most important signal that one could give to those who are giving service, providing service, or providing goods. So we have to, again, get into that habit of exercising good choice. We would want to see that more of what we produce, and the Ministry of Agriculture has said that we want to at least increase production of about 25%, yes, of all that we reduce import and certain critical fruits and vegetables by at least 25% in the next couple of years. What that will mean, hopefully, if we could increase the supply here, that some of the things that we use, sweet potatoes, yams, white potatoes, cabbages, fruits and vegetables, they will be sufficiently available in enough quantities to impact the price. We are attempting to get our farmers to a place where they are more price conscious and where they are more scientific in determining the costs. The Agricultural Ministry had a project to assist farmers in determining the real cost of producing a product, so that persons would not get up one morning and say, well, you will pay me $10 a pound for my pork. You know, that there is some link to some cost of that particular input, and that is a process that will take some time. What I would say, over the last couple of months, notwithstanding COVID, we have seen an overall improvement in the outputs coming from the agricultural sector. Fisheries, for example, for the first 7 months so far, is showing a 25% increase, which is substantial and perhaps would be historic. And we have seen an increase in the production or the catches as they relate to potfish, the doctor fish, the snapper, and so on, lobsters even, are more in abundance this year than they were last year for the comparative period of time. And we hope with all of these increasing in production, both crops, livestock, fisheries, that over time we are going to see a further reduction in the prices as farmers and vendors develop a better attitude to marketing, as people begin to recognize that really it is not so good to have all your goods there waiting, or most of them, to take back from whence they came, because you are determined that this is your price and you either take it or leave it. And there is some value where at the end of your sale on Saturday or Friday that you determine all of my goods will go, and so I'm going to drop the price in a significant way to achieve that. These are some of the things that over time we hope to get. But right now we are focusing and producing more. And thankfully, as a result of the stimulus, as I said, the fisheries sector has been one of the most significant players in terms of showing that the stimulus has worked. And year on year now, we are recognizing a significant increase in output. And I think for the first 7 months, we have at least, if my recollection is good, about a 25% increase in that production. And I believe if that pattern continues, clearly supply versus demand should lead to some movement. We are concerned about the prices. We are going to have our Consumer Affairs Department become more vigilant and proactive about these issues. We have engaged the Chamber on at least 2 occasions regarding the cost of living, because we believe there are more that they can do, both in sourcing their goods and in the pricing, so that the relief that the government gives in terms of, say, removing VAT from food, reducing and removing customs duties, that those are passed. At times there is a stickiness in the market where instead of passing the full concessions, those who are supplying goods in fact carry up their markup and rob the poor people of really getting the benefits. And that is why the government has to be a little wary when we say we are removing duties, we are removing taxes from some items, because they are not usually passed on. And so one consideration is really maybe to let these things remain and do some targeted support as we are doing with the PAP program, so those intended to get the benefit actually get the benefit that way.
A substantial response, and we have a question asking, what is the situation with the Basseterre High School? Any updates on that?
This is the old Basseterre High School.
Well, from what I gather, the grounds of the former Basseterre High School.
Right. Yes, the gentleman did come and have a conversation with me. He wanted to explore the possibility of using the premises, using the compound to establish a parking facility. I think that is basically a good idea. Parking has become a necessity now in Basseterre, and we commend the young man for his creative thinking. However, I have been advised that the property is no longer a property owned by the Ministry of Education, and so we'll have to direct him to the Human Resource Department, previously called Establishments, to investigate or to explore if he can get permission to do that. But that is something that is more for, well, the government, the cabinet, to decide on.
What I could add with respect to that, sustainable development don't really preferred ministry, because land and spatial matters are dealt with by that ministry, including the building board, which give guidance and so on, is also a subject under the Ministry of Sustainable Development. We have a committee that is headed by Jeff Farrier, who is basically an expert in development matters. And we have put to Jay that the Basseterre High School grounds, a compound, basically we would want to have some expert view on its use. In fact, they are ahead of us in that he already has a number of ideas about the development of that particular site. And I think the idea of parking is one such that is before them. We have asked, though, for some further professional advice to make an evaluation about the suitability of Basseterre High compound for all those options that Dre and others have come up with. And one would recall that very recently the new president of the St. Peter's Bus Association, Andrew Talbot Bass and Keynes and Carey and others from the new presidency would have visited that particular site with me, and they have ideas about a bus stand and about support services. The parking, of course, came up again, and so we have asked Mr. Farrier to expedite in terms of getting the scope of terms of reference for the experts to come in and to have a look and to give us some advice. So I would say to the caller, we are looking at it, and in everything we want to ensure that we are making the right judgment calls. Basseterre compound has come into the mix because we have found an alternative site for what was the Basseterre High School, and it's a good question to ask what we will do with all of that land. And we have determined that we will get professional advice, and that is being pursued. I will attempt to follow up tomorrow with the relevant parties to see how far we would have reached with that. But I would say for an application like that, perhaps the person had come to education because it really was being used for educational purposes, having provided education with alternative sites, and it's no longer basically being used in that regard. Sustainable development, more than the Ministry of Establishment, would be a better area to turn to submit applications.
We will go quickly to some of the WhatsApp messages that we received before we bring tonight's program to a close, and I will try to get through as many as possible. We have a question here asking, well, this first message is a question and a statement. Good night. Are those new cases of COVID in St. Kitts and Nevis quarantined in a government facility? And some of the bus drivers are not following the protocol. The police need to be aware of that. Doctor? Are those new cases quarantined in a government facility?
Most of the cases are quarantined at home.
Do you anticipate that schools would continue to operate on a shift system come September, or would we see a return to whole day classes? Mr. Hodge?
That is something we have been wrestling with. The year ended with only Basseterre High School and Washington Archibald High School continuing the shift system, because of course those are our two largest schools. And there has been quite a number of requests from parents, from teachers who want to return to full-day instruction. We have had a brief conversation with Dr. Laws. She has advised that we get the actual enrollment for each class. And so when we are able to meet with the task force, we'll have some conversations around that. But it is something that we have been wrestling with. A final decision has not been made, and we'll have to make this closer to the time. The schools, the school management are aware of this, and so they are working with alternate plans for a shift as well as a non-shift system.
This person has sent a few questions. I would like to know why some citizens, so I'll go through the questions and just make a note of any ones that you can respond to. I would like to know why some citizens of St. Kitts who are working in some stores, groceries and bars are not wearing their masks properly. Do you think it makes sense to have spectators at CPL cricket when they will be serving alcohol at CPL, and some spectators will be acting irresponsible and get drunk, not wearing their masks, etc., practicing social distancing and sanitizing their hands? Some persons, through no fault of their own, who are allergic to the PEG in the vaccines and who have medical conditions, cannot take the vaccines, are very responsible in protecting themselves from the virus. Do you think you should allow persons through no fault of their own who can't take the vaccine to attend CPL cricket at Warner Park and have a section for them away from vaccinated persons?
Okay, so right now, as it is, only vaccinated persons are allowed in CPL, so I think that covers that question. In terms of persons in supermarkets, etc., you said not wearing masks, we keep saying that personal responsibility is important in this fight, and I believe also if you see someone who is not doing the right thing, the task force cannot monitor everything, and so that's why we ask for everyone in society to play a part in ensuring that persons abide by the non-pharmaceuticals. And CPL, the capacity of the ground is going to be 50%. Persons are vaccinated, and I believe that they should be adequately social distanced such that it can be held safely.
Has the CMO and the cabinet made any decision in regards to the resumption of cruise ships to Port Zante?
The answer is yes. We have discussed this matter, and again in all of these, the government's priority is to keep our people safe and to protect our people, even as we want to encourage them to take all the necessary measures to protect themselves. In that regard, we are committed in principle, and we have accepted that the cruise ships will return to Port Zante, that it will be organized in terms of a bubble, and the Ministry of Tourism and the task force are working. In fact, they had started that plan some time ago, and Mr. Abdias, who head the task force, was given the directive from the cabinet at our last meeting to bring to some clearer endpoint those conversations with all the parties involved in the Port Zante operation, the Ministry of Tourism, to ensure that we can do this in the safest possible way. So that is a work in progress, and yes, we are committed to return of cruise ships to St. Kitts. In fact, they've already returned. We have facilitated them. So it is not that we had put a stop on any. There have been a lot of misinformation. The cabinet never put a stop. In fact, cruise ships stopped coming here largely because the CDC, Centers of Disease Control, put a ban on their movement because they had become the epicenter for a lot of cases, COVID cases. And so it was only recently that the Centers for Disease Control gave, of course, the approval for cruise ship again to continue to do business. And then they fell into difficulties over certain decisions made in Florida by the governor there. All these are external to us. But our main concern in every space, whether it is in manufacturing, whether it is in the construction industry, wherever it is, that people return to work in a very safe way. And once those conditions have been met to the satisfaction of the task force, we have opened up. That is why we have over 1,000+ workers in the factories at Harrow, at Jaro, at Kajola. They all went through a process of review and evaluation, and we were satisfied that the employers would be able to keep the employees safe in those particular establishments, and they're back out. So, by the same example, the hotels, they have opened back up because they had put in place certain requirements to the satisfaction of our health team and our task force generally to allow them to participate. So once the protocols are determined and they appear adequate, we certainly are open to business being resumed everywhere in our churches, wherever it is in our schools, again, protocols, so that one looks at the checklist of things to be done, and one can then arrive at a reasonable conclusion that the environment is safe. That is all that we are asking. Again, we just want to urge those who have an interest in the cruise business to ensure that they get vaccinated. That is their strongest defense. And similarly, to ensure that they wear their masks, they sanitize, they wash their hands, they do all those basic things that we were taught since way back in March, February, thereabout of 2020. You do it to protect yourselves and to protect your families and loved ones.
Having said that, we have two messages here related to the cruise industry saying, Honorable Prime Minister, how is your cabinet planning to balance life first strategy with cruise ship tourism for 2021-2022? And there was talk about a cabinet meeting that was to be held yesterday to decide on the cruise ships calling at St. Kitts, in St. Kitts. Can you update the Federation on this matter?
I think I just did that in speaking, that the cabinet did meet, that the cabinet made a decision with respect to the continuity of the cruise tourism. We are fully in support of cruise tourism. We are fully in support of education tourism. We are fully in support of stay-over tourism. For us, tourism is a broad sector, and what we want to do is diversify around it, and all the various subsectors, education, etc., we strengthen them. As part of our discussion Saturday, for example, given the imminence of the hurricane, we learned that Ross has over 1,200 students here. They came back under certain established arrangements, chartered flights, etc., etc., a program for moving them safely from the airport to particular venues where they could be quarantined safely. So again, once the protocols are established and are going to be complied with, usually there is no problem. The hotels are open. The crews had begun to come here. They operated in a bubble and so on, and they went over at Carambola in the first iteration, if you will. We have said that going forward, for broader benefits to flow, that we would want our PSBUs at Port Sante, and so that is the mandate now. So again, there had never been any uncertainty, at least expressed by the government, regarding cruise. The government concern has always been and must continue to be, whenever business is being transacted, it has to be done in a way that is safe for everyone. And we are satisfied that appropriate arrangements can be made to ensure the safe revisitation, if you will, of the cruise ships to Port Sante. That then is a matter for the technical team, the Ministry of Tourism, to provide leadership, guidance, support, engage the stakeholders anew and as often as is possible in collaboration with the task force, and that work had started for some time now. So it's basically filling in whatever gaps there are, and we expect by the next time cruise ships would come, Port Sante will benefit from that call. So we are very optimistic about that and about the future. But the future is not just in our hands.
Mr. Hodge, this person is asking if you're aware of a situation in which the Irish Town School has been leaking for 5 years now. Can you speak to that, if you're aware and if it is true or not?
The school can't be leaking. If not, we won't be having school there. There might be some aspects where there are leaks. We have a unit within the Ministry of Education that the responsibility of those persons are to visit schools to determine what needs to be done in terms of maintenance. That unit is headed by a Miss Melva Walters, and the unit does a very thorough job with this. In addition to that, principals are required to write to the Chief Education Officer reporting any damage or any repairs that need to be done. And they do this faithfully. These repairs are to be undertaken by the Public Works Department. In an effort to get some of these work done, the Ministry of Education meets with Public Works every 2 weeks, fortnightly. And to check in to see what has been done, we identify what needs to be done and things like that. So there might be some leaks. I can't say that the principal has not written. I can't say that Ms. Walter's team has not identified. I can check with her tomorrow to see what exactly that is about. But we tend to do our best to try to get repairs done, maintenance done. We are hoping that the Ministry of Education can have its own maintenance team. This is something that has been said years ago, while I probably was still a junior teacher in schools. So we are hoping, we were given the support by both Minister Powell and Minister Richards to try to bring something to budget session so that we can have our own maintenance team. But it's a lot of schools to maintain.
We have a question for you as well from a parent, and this one is for saying, as my daughter prepares to enter 5th form for the upcoming school year, remember locks was once a religious matter, or if boys were wearing long hair, it has to be because of medical reasons. As for now, it's a style, and boys are now entering school with locks. Why can't I braid my daughter's hair once it's children friendly?
I know that children are supposed to be well groomed. Students are supposed to be well groomed in uniform and their hair, following the prescription or the regulations in relation to their socks and shoes and all of that. I think some of our parents try to put the emphasis in the wrong place. We need to encourage our girls in school to look like girls when they come to school and not mature women. And so they need to, as the old people will say, plait their hair, rope their hair, guinea their hair, all those things. They go and they buy all these hair. I used to call them HBO, hair borrowed from others, and come to school to adorn themselves. They need to put the interest elsewhere, and that is my very candid. I'm glad that as a principal I didn't have to deal with those issues. Those were non-entities at my school as a principal. Okay, I would tell my girls, leave those flamboyant hairstyles for when you get in the bank.
But the parent is saying that the style will be children friendly, if it would be acceptable if it's children friendly.
That is very subjective. What is children friendly? In my school, in my day, it had to be my friendly, the principal friendly to allow it. Right, I think that our students today are getting away with more than the way they come to school attire sometimes. And, you know, because one or two persons might have taken a principal to court. And so, you know, these things have become issues. But I would like to encourage that parents to make sure that your daughter's here nicely combed, well groomed, and she's going into fifth form. She has to focus now on getting those subjects under her belt. That's where the emphasis should be.
We're almost through with the questions, just a few more. This one says, good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. I must commend you and your team thus far on the job you have been doing in light of this pandemic. I am an entertainer who has been hit hard due to the closure of the entertainment industry, and I would like to know, one, what is the government doing about the number of persons who still have not been paid from the 2020 election campaign? Two, when can we expect payment? And three, in terms of relief, about 90% of entertainers in this country do not have official business licenses. At a time like this, when they cannot effectively go out and ply their trade, what assistance can be given to them?
Well, very quickly, payment for campaign is not a government matter. That would be a matter for political parties. And so those who would have recruited entertainers, the entertainers should go directly to those persons to seek for settlement. That certainly cannot be paid from the Treasury. With respect to what we are doing, we could put the question the other way. What it is the entertainers are proposing to the Ministry of Entertainment to ensure that the environment in which they operate would be satisfactory and conducive to them being able to ply their trade more fully. And that is the question. What I do know is that Minister Keela Byron Nisbet has been proactive, and she has been in consultation with a broad cross-section of entertainers, and we expect that perhaps next Monday when we meet, or soonest thereafter, we will have a set of proposals that would allow for wider participation by entertainers. So that is something that is happening, that has come from wide consultation with the entertainers. At Monday's cabinet, she did indicate that she had sent a draft to the police because, of course, entertainment, crowd management and safety issues, to get some initial input from the police commissioner and his team. She has also sent it to the technicians, technical staff in the Ministry of Health to get some further input. So the program is being refined, and certainly we want every area of socioeconomic activity to be safely opened. And we are willing to work with persons. Persons know what it is. They know the danger of the environment in which we are engaged, and they can come up with ideas as persons involved in their particular areas and say, this is what we can do to satisfy the problems, to satisfy the concerns of the Ministry of Health, for example. This is what we recommend we put in place to satisfy the concern of Superintendent Cromwell Henry. So once the concerns of the critical people are reasonably met, there would be no problem. I have found that in the exercise of their discretion, Commissioner Brandy and his team has done a very good job, and the health professionals equally. Our policy is not an exclusionary one, it's one of inclusion, and we want people to be included in something good and something safe. So once we get recommendations from the entertainers, we certainly will examine them and do the best that we can. That is what I could say at this particular moment in time. When we see the particulars, you will know, and we will communicate how far we reasonably can go. But every sector that we have engaged, the government has been helpful. We have, for example, in relation to some sectors, waived certain payments for vendors, that down at the terminal we have reduced unincorporated tax for small businesses by 50%. We have gone to the central bank. We have ensured the deferral of loans to persons in St. Kitts and Nevis who had mortgages from financial institutions. So we've been working diligently behind the scene and in front of the scene to really ensure that we have an improved quality of life for our people.
So then finally, we have these final three say, firstly, kudos to Dr. Wilkinson in response to that person spreading false information. This one asks, are we still on track to fully open in the country in October 2021? And if so, what will such an opening entail? And finally, when will the Basseterre High School begin construction?
Well, in terms of the opening up by 1st September, all sectors right now are basically open to some degree. The manufacturing sector is open. All the factories that want to be open have been allowed once they met the criteria. We can name them: the brewery, and those who are in export manufacturing in particular, the largest number. Harrisova at Sandy Point, open. Sun Island closed, open. Jaro, open. Cajola Cristada, open. Brush Company, open. The Marara Distillers, open. So all of them, to my knowledge, have been open. Of course, market forces may determine the level of engagement in which they are involved now. We see, for example, the St. Kitts Brewery is doing some expansion work, which is a good sign and shows that its finances are relatively healthy, and we want that for every business. So the manufacturing is open. Construction is open. In fact, that was one of the first one that we opened. The fishers and the farmers are plying their trade. I indicated that the fisheries sector, we have seen a 25% increase over the last 7 months, January to July, relative to last year. The crop section has also shown sign of improvement. So our farmers are feeding us. You go to the market, you see a wide array of fresh produce, and we have now an abundance of local fish types available. Those sectors are open. What had been left, particularly challenged, had been tourism, but they have been open. They have been open since last year. The hotels went through their processes of inspection. Marriott is open, Koi is open, Park Hyatt is open, Four Seasons is open. It's a question now of the traffic. Are people willing to come? People feel safe enough to travel, and we think that we are getting there. At the last report, we are seeing higher traffic coming in. Education, tourism, largely open. 1,700 persons have been repatriated here between the faculty and the students. That is a significant number of people there in rent homes, renting cars, going to our restaurants. Our restaurants are all open. The only constraint is the curfew, which in every country going through COVID in the Caribbean, there is a curfew because it is critical to the maintenance of the stability and to the police and the powers that be to be able to exercise certain quick actions when they are called for. So again, cruise has started, not in a fantastic way, but we understand if you're just opening in terms of a sector that had been banned from participation, not by us, but by the Centers for Disease Control in America, that we are getting there. The 1st October is not an absolute date. If we could get all of these things that we need to do done by September, then we are all there. So we will go as fast as persons get themselves prepared. And one of the critical constraints for the tourism sector and for the country generally is that we need to get more persons vaccinated, so that if by the odd chance they become infected by COVID-19, they shouldn't end up in the hospital being hospitalized, and clearly we want to avoid deaths at all costs. So for your own protection, I want to make the appeal to everyone to go and get yourself vaccinated, because it is your best defense. In the United States and elsewhere now, for persons to enter universities, people are saying you have to get vaccinated. That is becoming a norm. And we in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have done a wonderful job in having over 70% of the population already taken, having already taken their first dose, and over 60% of the adult population having taken their second. But we need to get as close to everybody, as close to 100% of those who are vaccinated, who can be vaccinated, to be vaccinated, particularly because of one of the reasons Dr. Wilkerson advanced tonight. We are having variants, and the variants are going to attack more significantly those who are unvaccinated. That is what the science, that is what the evidence have both shown to date, and that is why we continue out of love, care, and concern for our people to say, get yourself vaccinated, do not take a chance. The life you will save may be your own, that of your child, that of your loved ones. Because as these variants take shape, they are becoming more deadly. We see what Lambda did here, and we are hearing that the Delta is even more deadly and more transmissible than anything else. And that is why we are asking our people to go voluntarily. Nobody should have to force you to stay alive, you know. And so, again, my encouragement to people to get vaccinated, and for all of you who have friends and loved ones who are not, do what you can to help them to understand the fierce urgency of now. Because you see, until we do that, we heard what is happening in Australia, where large cities are now having to go into lockdown. That is critical. Whether it's partial lockdown, the rose is just as sweet in my view. But that is what is happening. Unless people organize themselves to protect themselves. And the truth is, the trouble with the virus is that it only takes one. It only takes one to get in the Ministry of Education. An entire department has to close. Because we do not know. They may be not showing signs, but they are carrying the virus. We have seen that we have had to close down our school meals. We have seen that we have had to close down our primary schools and our secondary schools. We do not want to have to go back to that again. For the love of the children, we are asking the parents to get vaccinated. If you love your child, please do that for them, so that they could have a stable environment in which to engage. Because again, the science and the research have shown that there is no substitute now for children being in the classrooms. People talk about having laptop and all of these, but the science is saying that children perform better in classroom setting than when they are elsewhere. And again, the burden of their supervision is not left on their parents, who really have to go to work again. So we are asking parents to do what they must do, and we are asking them to encourage every child of theirs, 12 years and over, to become vaccinated once we start the rollout of the Pfizer vaccine.
Thank you so much for that. And, the Basseterre High School, any expected construction start for construction?
The more knowledgeable person.
Actually, the program of work has been turned over to Public Works. They are to supervise the actual construction of the Basseterre High School. But I know things are happening. We have actually started paying to have certain things put in place. Insurance has been taken care of, is in process of being taken care of, and a lot of other things that I never anticipate would happen. So we definitely hoping that we can break ground soon enough. I would hope that will happen during this upcoming term. I wouldn't say academic year, but this term.
Thank you so much for that. So, gentlemen, we've had quite a show this evening. I'm going to ask you if you could just briefly offer our listeners and viewers some closing remarks as we bring the program to an end. So we can begin, as usual, in the reverse order of how we started. So Superintendent Cromwell Henry, we'll begin with you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. It was indeed a very inspiring, educational, informative program this evening. Not much questions came my way, and that is a good sign. It means that persons are quite familiar with the laws with respect to the COVID and what their obligations are. But for some reason, we're still not seeing that translated into action. And so we want to again remind persons of their duties, their obligation to comply with the basic protocols, the non-pharmaceutical protocols. We prefer, of course, if you get vaccinated and complement that with the non-pharmaceutical protocols. But we want persons to remain safe. We've seen an increase in the number of new cases. We've seen 27 cases yesterday. Well, the figures that came out today shows that there were 27 new cases, and yesterday was 26. And so the doctor has said that this is the result of complacency. And by that he means persons are not complying with the protocols. They're not wearing the mask, they're not sanitizing, they're not avoiding crowds. You look at you go to some of the bars, and persons are up close to each other without masks, and they are talking, and they are shouting, and they are laughing. This exposes you to the virus. And so we ask persons to be cognizant of this, and to take your own health serious and be responsible, and avoid these situations so that we do not see the continued increase in cases. In closing, I want to admonish us all to be safe, wear a mask, avoid crowds, and follow all the basic COVID-19 protocols. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Cromwell Henry from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. Next, we'll hear from Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Hodge.
Thank you. When we look at the 4 preschools, 2 public, 2 private, that were ordered closed, it is basically adults, staff members, parents, grandparents from household that came up positive, that resulted in these institutions being closed. If this is any indication, as we near the opening of school, it's telling us that we're going to have a rough patch, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And as a result, we would really like to continue to encourage teachers. As was said earlier, if you're a parent and you love your child, you have to do this for them. I would say the same thing for a teacher. If you love your student, you really have to do this for them, to you yourself to be vaccinated. And when we begin the rollout of the vaccine for the 12 to 19-year-olds, that we would really encourage all of these youngsters to get vaccinated. I want to end by congratulating one of our youngsters from the Virtuals High School, who is the winner of the theme celebrations for independence this year. This is the 2nd year running that we have had a school child winning, because we do have adults competing as well. Last year we had a child from Sadler Secondary. So I had the good fortune to make an early call this morning to, I think, Imani Samuel from the Virtual High School, a 3rd former. This should be coming in the news, so I'm ahead of Virtuals, ahead of MZIZ, sorry, to make this announcement. The theme for this year's Independence Celebration is Adapt, Diversify, Recreate Independence 38. And the winner is a third former at the Virtual Side School, so we congratulate the child and the school for winning. And we are hoping that we can really have a good independence celebration once our COVID situation is under control.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Hodge, and congratulations, Imani Samuel. I think this is an absolutely perfect forum, the Prime Minister's program, to announce that. So I'm happy you were able to share that with us. Congratulations, Imani Samuel of the Virtual High School, on winning the Independence slogan competition. Brilliant. Dr. Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, your closing remarks?
I'm just going to be very brief by saying again that the vaccines are safe and effective, and they're our best shot at getting back to some sense of normalcy. We now have 2 vaccines, the AstraZeneca and the Pfizer, and I want to encourage everyone who should be vaccinated to come out and get vaccinated. Those of you who receive the AstraZeneca vaccine anytime in July or in the first couple of days in August, and if you would have been given a date in September, but 4 weeks have passed, it's important for you to come into the health centers to be vaccinated now so that you can be fully vaccinated and offer the best shot at protecting yourself against severe disease and death. And so I urge everyone to do the right thing. And lastly, I want to speak to those persons who have a platform, the leaders in our society, some persons who were not speaking clearly to persons. I want you to send a crystal clear message to everyone that vaccination is our best shot. We need to put aside any petty differences, any political differences that we have, and try and see if we can protect every single person in this society, because every life is important, and that is what my fight has been from the very beginning. And I'm asking you to put aside the differences and let us join in this fight. And that is what we mean when we say an all-of-society approach. We've had 3 deaths. We don't want to have any more. We've had a number of persons who have been infected. We can decrease that number by making sure you protect yourself through vaccination. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilkinson. And we'll hear from the person who brings you this program regularly to keep you updated and informed and answer your questions, Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Jackie. I wanted on this show and to wish you all the very best. Equally, I must thank each of the panelists for bringing very good information and for being available to answer questions which persons had on their minds or their friends had on their mind. I want to thank all those who call and via WhatsApp and other means, email, sent questions. We hope we did a good job in answering them. This is about informing people. This is not a way type of show. We keep the standard very high. It is intended to share information needed for people to better organize their life. And tonight I learned from the presentations of the panelists, I learned from some of the questions posed, and maybe that is why I keep coming back time after time. I want to thank all those who especially offered commendation for my leadership and the leadership of the government at this critical time. All that we are attempting to do really is to create a better quality of life for all of the people. And we certainly will get there. I am confident that with God's grace, we certainly would. Again, just a reminder, the vaccination is not a unity thing. It's not a Tim Harris thing. It is not a Cameron Wilkerson thing. Neither is it Mr. Hodge thing or Cromwell. The vaccination is the most powerful tool that each of us has to be able to get our lives in order and to protect ourselves from a virus that has infected hundreds of millions of persons around the world and killed millions of persons. A reminder that the life you save may very well be your own. And to caution those who for political reasons and other reasons are seeking to discourage people from protecting themselves, that they must not do an injustice to people. And it is very shameful when persons who are medical doctors for political purposes try to breed ignorance in the minds of people and to discourage people from taking the only thing that is available that the science has shown would work in terms of keeping them safe. So we encourage people to go to reliable sources, ask questions, do the right thing for yourselves and for your family. And the promise, safer and stronger future, will be ours to take advantage of. May God continue to bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I want to thank him and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for the opportunity to lead this beautiful country, this Garden of Eden, at this time of great challenge and difficulty. With his help, our tomorrow will be so much brighter than our today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Mr. Prime Minister. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in the program, and I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate also the persons who were bestowed with the Medal of Honor today, in addition to the person who will receive his medal at a later date. That's Dr. Linton Liebert out of Nevis. So congratulations in advance to you. It's always great to hear our nationals being recognized, especially at the different levels. I want to thank our callers who were patient and participated. Of course, as usual, a packed program, and I hope you took away something from the presentations or from the responses to questions and some of the suggestions. So always a very informative program, and I hope you found it informative as well. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I was your moderator. I encourage you to take care. God bless. And remember, Leadership Matters is aired on ZIZ Tuesdays from 8 p.m. So until next time, take care.
Khaled. Stand by for pictures.